Welcome to My Irish Radio Music and Culture News, your connection to everything happening in the world of Irish music and culture. I'm Jamie Flanagan. Each episode will share the latest news from Ireland's vibrant music scene, from traditional and folk to rebel ballads, pub tunes, Celtic rock, and today's top Irish pop. We'll also bring you updates on festivals, cultural events, and people keeping Irish heritage alive around the world. And remember, My Irish Radio is more than just a station. It's your community, your soundtrack, your voice. You can listen 24/7 at myirishradio.com and through the links in the podcast description below. Here's the best part. You can be part of it. Host your very own show on My Irish Radio. Choose your playlist, share your stories, make My Irish Radio your Irish Radio. Let's get into what's happening this week in Irish music and culture.
You've brought us a really fascinating stack of sources today, all looking at recent Irish music, culture, and arts news.
Yeah, it's quite a mix.
It really is. It's not just headlines, is it? It feels more like a snapshot of, well, a nation balancing huge global success with some really deep cultural roots and some surprising political shifts, too.
Exactly. And that's the mission today, right? We're not just reading the news aloud. We're trying to be your guides, pull out those key bits of knowledge, the nuggets, and maybe more importantly, look for the patterns, the connections, maybe things that don't immediately seem connected. We want you to see where Irish culture is, really thriving and expanding, both institutionally and artistically.
Okay, yeah. Because the sources definitely show a scene that's, well, dynamic is probably the word. You've got everything from stadium gigs to government funding. It's all in there.
It is.
So let's unpack this. Where should we start? Maybe with the music, the big commercial stuff.
Sounds like a plan.
Right. Well, you can't ignore the incredible demand for some of the legacy acts. I mean, Westlife. They're celebrating 25 years.
25 years, yeah.
And the sources confirmed the demand was just so high, they added 5 extra nights at Dublin's 3 Arena.
5 extra?
Yeah. So that brings their total to 10 nights just in Dublin, plus shows in Belfast. I mean, the scale of that, it's kind of staggering.
It is staggering. And I think it shows a couple of things. First, just that incredible loyalty, the diaspora appeal these acts still have.
Right.
And second, maybe the sheer economic muscle of the Irish live music scene, the infrastructure, 10 nights in an arena. That's a huge undertaking.
Definitely.
But, that massive pull from legacy acts, it always makes you wonder, doesn't it? Is that kind of gravity? Is it always a good thing for the newer artists coming up?
That's a really good question. Like, is it a shadow they're stuck in, or does it actually help promote the whole scene globally?
Right.
Because our sources also give us a bit of a shortcut to who is emerging. We've got these lists of new Irish songs, and the names are pretty diverse. Dylan Flynn and the Dead Poets, Lisa O'Neill, Guinea Cap, Foy Vance. You've got indie, traditional hip-hop. It's a real mix.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Because if you look at those newer artists, the stuff they're creating is often really nuanced. It's drawing from some deep cultural places.
Okay, like what?
Well, take The Last Dinner Party, their upcoming second album, From the Pyre. The sources actually say it's channeling the spirit of that classic 1973 film, The Wicker Man.
The Wicker Man, wow, okay. I'm glad you pick up on that, because that's not just like a musical influence nod.
No, it's specific.
It's a direct reference to this piece of, well, pretty dark folk horror cinematic culture. What does it tell you when artists, Irish or international, are pulling on that kind of thread?
Well, I think it tells us that artists today are, they're inherently global. They're cultural polymaths, maybe. They aren't just looking at the music charts. They're pulling in narratives, mythological terror even, from all sorts of places. It shows a pretty sophisticated level of cultural literacy, I think. And the output speaks globally, not just locally. It kind of lifts the conversation beyond just pop music.
Yeah, definitely more complex. Now, before we totally leave music, we should probably mention the international news that popped up. The sources noted the passing of Ace Frehley. Original Kiss guitarist, founding member, age 74. A huge figure in rock history, obviously.
Absolutely, a major loss. And, sticking closer to home for a sec, the Cork Jazz Festival got some coverage, too.
Okay.
Specifically mentioning the Cork School of Music Jazz big band concert, which kind of brings us back to that infrastructure point, doesn't it?
How so?
Well, even while we're talking about massive tours and global cultural references, you still need that local institutional talent pipeline being nurtured. The music schools, the local festivals.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And actually, that leads us perfectly into the next big theme, right?
You're listening to My Irish Music and Culture News, brought to you by My Irish Radio, streaming the best in Irish and Celtic music all day, every day. From classic jigs and reels to the latest Irish rock and pub favorites, we celebrate the sound of Ireland worldwide. Want to be more than a listener? Be a host. Share your love for the Irish music by hosting your own show on My Irish Radio. It's easy to get started. Just send us an email, myirishradio@gmail.com. Don't forget, you can listen 24/7 at myirishradio.com. Make My Irish Radio your Irish radio.
And actually, that leads us perfectly into the next big theme, right? Because all this commercial success, this artistic development, it doesn't happen in a vacuum.
No, it needs backing.
Exactly. It needs infrastructure, often strategic infrastructure.
Yeah.
So let's look at how the institutions are involved. This is where the numbers get pretty interesting.
Yeah, the institutional commitment, especially for export, is... oh, it's impressive. We've got the details from Culture Ireland's funding announcement. Over €1.1 million
1.1 million.
allocated to projects promoting Irish arts in 33 different countries.
33 countries.
Yeah. This isn't just passive support. You know, this feels like a state-level global cultural strategy. Cultural warfare, maybe, but in a good way?
Yeah, maybe. And when you look at what that funding covers, it's incredibly broad.
It really is.
It's circus, dance, film, literature, music, opera, theater, visual arts. I mean, it covers basically everything.
Pretty much the whole spectrum.
So it's not just a music grant or a film grant. It's this focused plan to establish Irish cultural soft power, I guess, across every medium you can think of worldwide.
And what's interesting is that this big global push seems to sit alongside a really deep reverence for tradition back home.
How do you mean?
Well, we see it in the sources covering major cultural festivals like Oriac das na Samna in Belfast. Thousands gathered there.
Okay, remind us what that is exactly.
It's a huge annual Irish language and arts festival. You get music, debates, competitions, loads of stuff. It really shows how tied together the Irish language and the sort of communal arts scene are to modern identity.
Right. And it's not just the big organized festivals either, is it? We also saw coverage of something, well, quite profound culturally. The scattering of Manchán Maigín's ashes.
Yes, that was significant.
Thousands apparently attended the ceremony at the Sacred Centre of Ireland. And for anyone listening who doesn't know, Maigín was a really important voice on Irish identity, language revival.
Exactly. And the fact that his passing and this ritual, which is, you know, an ancient sacred kind of act, draws thousands of people.
Yeah.
It tells you there's this deep shared sense of identity there that goes beyond just modern politics or commerce. That kind of community reverence, maybe that's what gives the cultural export its weight, you know?
So you've got ancient rituals drawing crowds and massive state funding pushing arts globally, side by side. And if you connect those two, maybe that's where you start seeing these specific artistic booms. Like the sources highlighted the Irish horror film industry.
Yeah.
Apparently it's getting serious global attention now.
Yeah, that stood out. And what's fascinating about horror cinema is, well, it travels well, doesn't it? Fear is pretty universal.
True.
It's a commercial genre, sure, but it can also be really rooted in folklore, landscape, local anxieties. The fact that outlets like the Irish Times and Irish Central are flagging this boom suggests it's hit a kind of critical mass.
So not niche anymore.
Exactly, more like a strategic, potentially profitable cultural export.
Wow, a nation that balances scattering a language revivalist's ashes with becoming a global leader in horror films.
Yeah.
That is, dynamic is the word. And maybe a little spooky, like you said about The Wicker Man.
Ah, maybe.
And it seems like this deep cultural feeling, this mix of old and new, feeds right into political life as well.
I think it absolutely does. And this is where we can sort of pivot to the political sphere mentioned in the sources. That Irish Times piece on the presidential election seems really relevant here.
Right, the one summarizing the outcome Catherine Connolly's election through this idea of vibes-based politics.
Exactly. Vibes-based politics.
It's a catchy phrase, but what does it actually mean in this context? What are they getting at?
Well, in short, I think it means that the voter's choice maybe relied less on, you know, traditional policy points or party loyalty.
Okay.
And more on things like the candidate's perceived authenticity, their general mood, the sentiment around them, how much they seem to resonate with the current national cultural feeling.
So the vibe of the candidate was more important than the policy details.
That seems to be the argument. Their perceived integrity, how they aligned with the national mood, that became the key factor, which is, quite a shift from purely policy-driven debates.
And it seems the rest of the world is watching this, even if they're a bit confused by it. Irish Central mentioned Jimmy Kimmel being puzzled by the Irish presidential election process.
Yeah. Well, it shows there's international interest, at least, in keeping track of how things are evolving politically in Ireland.
Definitely. And moving beyond just the formal elections, the sources also connect this cultural identity stuff to the modern economy, right?
Yeah, there was that Irish Echo opinion piece highlighting Digital Irish Tech Week.
Okay.
And it specifically mentioned building momentum from those September homecoming events in Belfast, which reinforces this idea that, cultural connection isn't just for art's sake. It's also a tool for economic networking, for business.
Right, bringing the diaspora tech community together through shared identity. It all paints a really vivid picture. We also pick up a few other interesting local news flashes, didn't we? Little snapshots.
Yeah, a couple of things.
Like the cancellation of the Limerick Christmas market by the mayor, who actually said it was not good enough. That's setting a high bar for a Christmas market.
It is. But maybe that detail, even though it's small, speaks to a wider desire for, excellence, a high standard across the board.
Perhaps. And you certainly see that standard in the cultural sector. Like Irish Central had that interview with Chef John Coffey talking about Irish Hullo cuisine.
Mm-hmm. High-end food.
Yeah, which kind of confirms that trend we saw with the horror films and the funding. The cultural ambition is really aiming high now, seeking global recognition in fine dining, just like in film or music.
It seems like it. Pushing boundaries everywhere.
We should also quickly note, just for completeness, that the sources did include some difficult, necessary reporting too. International news items impacting Ireland. Specifically, the sad death of a 20-year-old man in Dublin and that awful mass stabbing incident on a train heading to London. The media landscape always has to balance the cultural highs with reporting these tough realities.
Absolutely. Essential reporting. So if we try and pull all these different threads together, what have we really seen today?
What's the big picture?
Well, it feels like a fascinating split, doesn't it? On one hand, you have a culture that's deeply traditional, really reverent about its language, its history. You see that with the Migan scattering, the Moriartis Festival.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's incredibly aggressive, very strategic in exporting modern, diverse, often profitable art forms, whether that's horror films or that huge 1.1 million funding pot we talked about.
So for you, the listener, our learner,
Yeah.
what's the key takeaway from all this?
Well, I think this deep dive gives you a really concise but high-resolution snapshot. You hopefully now get that Ireland isn't just exporting, a few famous singers. It seems to be running a strategic plan that balances massive commercial hits, like Westlife's 10-night run.
Right. With these subtle but really significant shifts in politics and culture. Things powered by vibes-based politics and bands channeling classic folk horror films.
It's that mix, isn't it? The ancient and the hypermodern somehow working together. It's a pretty powerful model for cultural resilience, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so here's a final provocative thought for you to take away and think about. The sources clearly show this focused cultural investment is driving standards sky high from horror films to hot cuisine, right across the board. So you have to wonder, when a national identity is being so actively invested in, so actively exported, how directly does all that energy, that shared story being created by the culture, how much does that fuel the very vibes that seem to be shaping its political landscape now?
Is cultural output actually becoming the engine of political feeling?
Exactly. Is culture driving the political consensus? Something for you to mull over. We'll see you next time.
That's it for this episode of My Irish Radio, Music and Culture News. Thanks for joining us. And remember, you can hear the best in Irish and Celtic music 24 hours a day at myirishradio.com. If you ever dreamed of sharing your favorite tunes and stories, now's your chance. Become one of the hosts. Host your own show right here on My Irish Radio. Just send us an email. It's easy as that. myirishradio@gmail.com. Until next time, it's Jamie Flanagan. Keep the music playing and keep Ireland in your heart.